This is our last week together, and we're going to be talking about electronic waste, e-waste. And the best place to start with e-waste, and e-waste is basically we generate all this technology. What happens to it when we're done with it? We throw it away. And how could we more responsibly dispose of electronics when we're finished with them? So when we look at electronic waste, we're really kind of looking at the life cycle of electronics. And all electronics are produced, right? They're manufactured, and then they enter the marketplace, and then they're purchased, and then we use them. And what happens to them when we're done using them? How are they disposed of? That would be the end of their life cycle. And so a good place to start with this is just to kind of look at what is the production process? How are they produced? What are the impacts of the production process upon the environment? That would be the first stage of the life cycle to look at, just the impacts of electronics on the environment. And a good place to learn about that is to come here to YouTube, and you can go to the Story of Stuff project, and you could search for the story of electronics. So here's the story of electronics coming up. There we go, the story of electronics right there. So search for the story of electronics. And after that, if you want to learn a little bit more about the entire manufacturing production cycle and some of the ramifications and impacts of that, look for the story of stuff. It's another really interesting video. But the first one you should watch is the story of electronics. And it kind of talks about the production process and how a lot of items are designed for the dump. And that means we use them for 18 months, we use them for 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, and then we get rid of them. They're designed for the dump. And so what happens to all that electronic waste when we're finished with it? Well, if you go to 60 Minutes or just go to Google and search for the wasteland, and again, this link is here, right? Here's the link to the story of stuff. Here's the link to the wasteland. So these links are here within our outline of what we're learning every week. But next, you should go check out the wasteland. Crazy image here. That's not part of it. That's just a commercial. But the wasteland is a special that 60 Minutes did where they kind of tracked electronic waste, and they took a look at what happens to e-waste once we've thrown it away. And some companies unscrupulously will ship electronic waste overseas where it's broken down in an environmentally toxic way to extract precious metals from it. And we have to be concerned about what happens to electronics when we're done with them, because there's a lot of toxic materials and chemicals inside our computers. So mercury, arsenic, cadmium, beryllium, other toxic chemicals, right? Lead, right? Here's what happens to your discarded old computer. Here you can see a pile of trash, a landfill, right? That's how stuff works. And then Greenpeace also did a study, toxic chemicals in computers. And so you can find this on the web. And, again, heavy metals, lead, mercury, hexavalent, chrome, chromium-6, and cadmium, brominated flame retardants, which, up until recently, still today are in everything produced for your house, all furniture and everything like that. It's kind of crazy. PBBs, PBDEs, all this stuff, I don't even know what it is, but not good for you. So there's all this stuff inside your electronics. And if you just throw it into the trash, then it ends up in landfills where it could break down and then carried into the water source. Or, if you don't dispose of it properly, it can be shipped overseas where people could break it down in toxic ways, which aren't good for the environment. And so really what we're looking at here is the impact upon the environment of electronics, all the way from the production, how do we build them, what kind of an impact does that have on the environment, to the disposal, and how does that impact our environment. And that's the entire life cycle, production process, and disposal process of electronics. Greenpeace also puts out this guide to greener electronics. So it rates companies based upon how well they produce electronics. And do they do it in an environmentally friendly way? So some company named Wipro, never heard of them, really friendly, HP friendly, Apple and Dell, pretty much right there in the middle. And Toshiba, that's just one more reason to stay away from it. Samsung, right? Yeah, so maybe most of your major brands are there, and most people probably wouldn't even consider this when purchasing something like, well, Samsung's higher than Toshiba, so I'm going to go with Samsung. If you can remember that next time you're buying electronics, that's a good thing to remember. So when it comes time, this is really important. When it comes time to dispose of electronics, you want to dispose of electronics properly. In 2007, 157 million computer products were discarded in the U.S. 157 million. 133 million of those products went to landfills, right? So how do we prevent that? So you can dispose of things properly by coming to eStewards and find the eStewards recycler. And so go to find eStewards recycler, and they're certified recyclers. I wonder if there's a difference. Let's go to certified recyclers and see what that brings up. Might just be a big list. Yeah, big list. All right, but you know, here we could search for just Fresno and see what we find. And Electronics Recyclers International, right? So that's Fresno. So you can bring up their website. And ba-da-da-da. The guy who runs this company actually lives right around the corner from me. So pretty cool. This dude right there, John Shigarian. So these people are all around the nation, and they do electronics recycling, and it's a good deal. It's a good thing. And so when you're ready to get rid of stuff, you could call them and you could ask them, when is their next free recycling day? Because they will have free recycling days, and those free recycling days you could drop your stuff off for free and recycle it appropriately. So just keep your stuff in the garage until the free recycling day and then go by and drop it off. So that's the best way to responsibly recycle. And not only should you responsibly recycle electronics, but also things like batteries, right? So batteries inside a computer, or batteries that you use for power tools, or batteries that you use for toys. You want to keep all those and make sure they don't end up in your trash. And you can drop them off at Home Depot, at Lowe's, at Best Buy, at Whole Foods, I think even has battery recycling. So a lot of retailers, if you just start looking, you know, you'll see places where you could throw old batteries, and then they make sure they get dumped responsibly. So this kind of brings us into just, you know, being a good steward for the planet all around. And our planet is suffering from the impacts of the waste that we have created, whether it's air pollution or water pollution. And while it's easy to be cynical, and I do wrestle with the cynical perspective that whatever, it's all going to hell anyhow, and one person doesn't really make that big of a difference. While it's easy to be cynical and to have that perspective, it's also not too difficult to take steps to do things in a way which minimizes impacts. That said, I drive a truck that gets about 20 miles to the gallon as opposed to, I don't know, a Prius, and I no longer live close enough to work to bike. Though if I really was dedicated, I could be biking to work, you know, and I could just make that lifestyle choice. It'd probably be better for me. But I get worried about getting hit by cars because, yeah, that's that. Otherwise, I might be doing it. I really would. So anyhow, just being a better steward for this planet. So not only recycling our electronics well and our batteries, you know, but also making sure that we take steps to just sort of minimize the impact, the footprint that we each live on the planet. Because even if it does all go down the drain, and we are experiencing climatic changes because of global warming, and that has been proven, you know, like they had a conference where 99.9% of the scientists agreed, yeah, this is the consensus, this is what's going on. So that's the scientific consensus, even if you hear information elsewhere, because there are people who publish information that say, oh, climatic changes have occurred throughout the history of the planet. That's true, but this one is occurring because of waste we've created. So what can you do to minimize your footprint? And what is the situation that we find ourselves in with the environment currently? The situation we find ourselves in with the environment currently, there's a lot of really cool videos out there. I found a couple for you to look at. So the first one that I think is really great to watch on a Friday night is a movie called Inconvenient Truth, An Inconvenient Truth. And it's a little bit older, but it really talks about global warming and climate change and the impacts of that, and pollution, and a great movie to watch. So go check that movie out. At least watch the trailer, Inconvenient Truth. There's also the Island President trailer, which is another fantastic movie about global warming and rising sea levels, and how the Mentawai Islands, the Mentawai Nation, is going to be underwater pretty soon because of rising sea levels, and that nation is no longer going to exist. And so check that out. It's a fantastic movie, fantastic, literally fantastic. The Island President. At least go watch the trailer. Another really great movie is a film called Midway. So you could just go to midwayfilm.com and watch the trailer here. But one of the things that is happening is that all of the plastics we use, a lot of plastic trash ends up in the ocean. And you could even go to YouTube and you could search for you could search for you could search for Garbage Island. I sorry, this one right here just grabbed my eye, and I'm like, what the heck is that? Meet France's toughest rappers. But Garbage Island really well documents something which is occurring in the Pacific. And all this plastic trash that we use, plastic water bottles, plastic bags, they a lot of that, some of it certainly blows into the ocean, where fish eat it and fish die, and then the ocean currents swirl everything into what's known as the Pacific Gyre, which is up kind of between Hawaii and Alaska. And the Pacific Gyre, all this trash has been brought to the center of the Pacific Ocean, and now there's an island of trash twice the size of Texas out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. An island of trash twice the size of Texas out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And it's completely destroying life around it. And so that's kind of what the Midway film looks at, and the impacts of that upon the birds. And then it's also what this little documentary here, which is about an hour long actually, looks at. So if you go to YouTube and search for Garbage Island by Vice, just watch like the first 20 minutes of this one. Well, it is only 20 minutes. Just watch the one until they do the map and kind of explain what the Pacific Gyre is and the garbage patch that's out there. And then you could just jump to part 2 or part 3 where they start to get to the Garbage Island and just look at this massive, massive Pacific Gyre garbage patch, right? Twice the size of Texas out there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And fish are eating it because they confuse it with their food because the plastic breaks down into little chunks. And it's awful. It's really awful. So go check that out. One last little article here on why we don't care about saving our grandchildren from climate change. You can check that out by Time. And again, that link is right there. So those are some of the things, some of the impacts right now on our planet from the lifestyle we've chosen to live. And, what can you do? What choices can you make to sort of minimize the impact? Well, one of the things you could do is recycle plastic and also reduce your use of plastic. So don't get plastic bags at the grocery store if you can avoid it. Don't use plastic bags to line your trash cans in your house if you can avoid it. Like, just rinse the trash can out, or use the brown paper bags on the inside of the trash cans in the house. But really, plastic is such a bad deal. Plastic bags are such a bad deal that California had a bill which almost passed. Unfortunately, it didn't, but almost passed to make plastic bags illegal in all of California because they just blow into the ocean too frequently. And some cities actually have outlawed plastic bags. So some cities have actually done it. I can't remember which cities, but some have. So you want to limit your plastic use as much as possible. And then the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So you want to reduce, reuse, and recycle. So reduce means, no, I don't need a plastic bag. It's one thing of coffee, right? Or it's a bunch of bananas, right? I could just put that into my cart. I could just carry that out to my car. That's all I'm buying. I don't need a bag. Or you could get one of those cloth bags, right? Or, and reusable shopping bags. So reuse, that's the other thing. And then recycle whenever you're done with something. So the main thing you should take from this video is that, one, we're screwing the planet up, literally, and scientific evidence supports that. And we're conducting a great experiment, and we don't know how it's going to turn out, but we've had a really big negative impact upon the environment, and we need to take steps to reduce that. And so when it comes to getting rid of your electronics, you want to make sure you recycle your electronics appropriately. So you could go to estewards.org and you could find somebody who is certified to responsibly get rid of your electronics, like electronic recyclers in Fresno here, whatever they're called. And then, same way with your batteries and plastics, you just want to make sure you recycle all that stuff well. And then just become a little bit more aware of what's going on with the environment because of our consumer lifestyle. The consumer lifestyle, of course, also including our consumption of electronics. So we're looking at the life cycle of electronics from their production, which includes like mining the ore and everything to make it, to their disposal. The story of stuff really introduces us well to the entire consumer life cycle, consumption life cycle of a product. So look at the story of electronics and the story of stuff, and then look at the Wasteland by 60 Minutes and e-waste, and then find good people to get rid of your electronics when you're done with it, and become more cognizant of what is happening to our environment, because there's a lot of stuff going on. All right. So if you happen to be watching this in Fresno because you're in my class at the school, you should also know that Fresno, Visalia, Bakersfield have the worst air quality in all of America. Uh, and they're, the top five. I forget where the other two are, but Fresno, Visalia, and Bakersfield are in the top five. And so that's something else you should just kind of bring into your awareness, and maybe create an escape plan to go somewhere with less toxic air, dirty air. All right, that's what I have to say about the environment. And e-waste, you are now literate, you're conversant. When somebody says e-waste, you know what they're talking about, and you can also inform other people about it. One more thing you could do is definitely educate other people about responsibly disposing of electronics. So you might share some of these resources via Facebook, tell your friends to check them out or whatever. All right, that's e-waste.